Saturday, and that is of course what's triggered that lockdown at that hotel. The government has said its plan, if the outbreak worsens here, could include asking newly retired doctors and nurses to return to the NHS. Sheila Jones is a retired nurse and joins me now via webcam. Welcome, thank you for joining us. So you retired last June. Have you had any official contact about the possibility of going back?
No, not at all. The first I heard about this was just, basically on Twitter. I saw the comments that maybe medical. There's an article of whether that medical staff may be called back to help as part of the coronavirus plan. So no official notification at all. So quite surprising news, really.
What would you think if you did get the call up?
Well, I think first of all, I've only recently retired, and I'm one of those 50s women that didn't get their pension, so I had to wait 5 years to be retired anyway, and to think that they may then be asking us back. But additionally, I'm also concerned because I'm 66 now, so I'm in that group of people that are at high risk if they come into contact with the coronavirus, at high risk of death. The statistics show, and this is from an official website, that the figures can be as high as 3.6% for my age group. And if you have an existing comorbidity, say like cardiovascular disease, that then goes up to about a 10% risk of morbidity if you contract the virus. So I think, first of all, there needs to be a little bit of clarity. This feels a bit like a knee-jerk reaction that, we'll just fill the spaces with newly retired staff without a lot of consideration being given to the fact that these people, it's probably mostly women anyway, are going to fall into this high-risk category. So it would depend on what they were wanting us to do. I mean, I guess you could potentially go into some sort of advisory telephone type role, man the telephones maybe, but to go back into something like intensive care, and I was an intensive care nurse, some sort of physical role, I think would be very difficult for a lot of retired personnel.
Would you say no if you were asked to do that?
If it was a physical role, there's no way. I wouldn't put myself and my family, at risk, given what I know now. If it was an advisory role, I mean, as a nurse, we are compassionate. We do want to help where we can, and it would be something I would give consideration to. But I don't think they've thought this through, because many people who've retired, they've struggled to hang on to working until 65, 66 anyway. So then to ask them to consider going back to work when many of them have worked through maybe personal illnesses anyway, it doesn't seem very realistic to me.
And I mean, you said obviously you're a nurse, you're compassionate by nature. I hear everything that you're saying about really probably not wanting to have to get back into the fray, but does that pull make you feel at all like volunteering your services in the sort of way that you've described, potentially giving advice or some sort of supervisory position?
Yeah, I think that if it was an advisory position and, they could work it that, you would maybe just do a few hours, of your time, that might work. But, time is precious. We're already short of money, not having had our state pensions for 5 years. I think it would be very difficult to say that I'm just going to volunteer to help, you know what I mean, when we're already being shortchanged on the pension front. I mean, Backto60 at the moment, the campaign group, already have a court appeal hearing in July to challenge the government on their stance on women's pensions. So to say now, they want us as voluntary workers, which actually is one of our arguments really, that women who have retired in the past at 60 did go into voluntary work, and they were able to do so because they had money coming in. And I think this cohort of women now, they're not in that same position. So I think they haven't really thought it through, I don't think. And When I was on the radio yesterday, I was listening to the doctor that was speaking from the BMA and the other lady doctor. There are all sorts of issues around registration, because that might have expired. Some people haven't renewed their registration. Retraining for the new post, that could take some time, and the liability, that you need as an employee in the NHS. So there's a lot of things that they need set up, and I do know they will have a pandemic plan, because all hospitals have to be prepared, for such a situation. But this plan doesn't seem to have been thought through, and I think that potentially we are one of the high risk generation being asked to put ourselves out there. When really it's not in our interests, and probably not in the interests of the people that we would serve.
Thank you very much. It's really interesting to get your perspective on all of that. Sheila Jones, thank you for joining us.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Just to say that we're just hearing that the EU has raised the coronavirus risk level to